Hey, welcome everybody. Uh-oh, I think we have a problem. Have a little problem with my screen here. Would you please be so kind and type if you can see me? Because my screen here shows bizarre stuff. Not good, huh? Louise, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Not good here either. It was good a moment ago when I tested it. Everything worked fine. But good, Mia, you can see me, but the question is it clear? Because here I have really a bad screen. Yeah, it hangs here too. Yeah, Roxana, it hangs here too. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if I should log out and start again or continue. Give me some feedback. Morning from Western Australia. Hi, Brett. How you doing? Crackly, Mia says. Blurry. Yeah, that's the problem I'm having here too, and I don't know why. Uh-oh. This may be a little problem. Yeah, bandwidth. But I didn't change anything and I tested it. And it worked just fine until a moment ago. Stay with us, guys. The wonders of technology. Jenny in Sydney says it's okay for her. It's a blur, yeah. Now it seems to, all of a sudden it seems to be better here, of what I see. But I think the recording is not going to be just great. I don't know what's going on. Huh. Um, shall I? Oh, boy, oh boy. Okay. So shall I? I'll keep going, but the recording is going to be really. Can you at least hear me clearly? Give me a little feedback. Audio is great, just video is bad. Okay, good. At least if you can hear me, bandwidth is going to improve and all right. Anyway, welcome everybody. I'm Adriana James from the Ted James Company and lpcoaching.com. Thanks for staying with me. We seem to have a little internet trouble. However, we'll keep going and we'll see where we get to. Because today we'll have a little intro. I talk, because I can't call it more than that. It's going to be a short thing compared to how much time it takes to really cover values, just about 5 days, to be real. But as you know, I wrote this big book. It's kind of a big book about values, kind of a thick book. If you can see it, my screen is terrible here. Anyway, it's pretty thick. I had a lot to say. I've been breathing, eating, sleeping values for 10 years before I even attempted to write a book. And I can say with full honesty that values is something I understand. So at times I may, let me tell you what I attempt to do today. We have a three sections conversation today, and I will, of course, touch on different ways of, I call them ways of thinking, which is technically incorrect. However, we'll call them this way so that we're all on the same page. There are 8 different types of thinking on the planet today, and the 9th one, in my humble opinion, is already appearing, but in a very interesting way. And then we have a section right at the beginning about the words that we use to describe those values of ours. And I'm going to show you that we actually don't understand each other at all. And the same value used by a person in a certain type of thinking means something completely different from another type of thinking. And I got a very interesting question, which I'm going to answer for everybody, whether you already trained in values or whether you're a beginner, which has to do with why under stress we revert through values levels. So that's going to be for today. So for those of you who are trained in values, be prepared because I will intentionally drop some bits of information that you don't know. I never taught, and probably I'll never have enough time to teach in detail. But for those of you who have ears to hear, you will catch it. If you don't catch it, listen again to the recording later on, because I will drop quite a few bits of information that you really don't know. So I want to say something up front. First of all, hi everybody. I want to say hi Nicole. I want to give a shout out to some lovely people that I can see in the chat room. And thank you all for being here. It's almost like, you are my, hi Marty, you are my social life now. Since we're all in the house. You are my social life, the people that I love to be with, the people on the same wavelength, because we're all interested in the same thing. Hi, Anne-Marie. Hi, Angela. How are you doing? Nice to see you here. So I want to say this up front, as I will explain a little bit about values levels. It's and the different ways of thinking. It's virtually impossible for me not to push some buttons. It's impossible just by the nature of um, of the explanation itself. So please understand from this get-go that I'm not trying to criticize any of the life problems that you may encounter or that anybody has, or to make fun of the life problems that you go through. It's not, or to diminish the importance of each values level. That's not, that's absolutely not my intention. I will simply present to you some information which is extremely useful in your dealings with different types of thinking in the people you manage, your teams, your family, your friends, because aside from personal relationships, the understanding of how people think in terms of their values is of utmost importance, especially if you're leading, if you're having if you are a small company, a small business, and you work with teams of people in your communication, even if you are managing teams of people, or in your communication with your boss, or even at home in your relationship, private relationship with the people around you. So I will drop a lot of stuff today. So I will encourage you to actually listen again after this recording, once we post the recording. Listen again, because there are many things that will make sense if you listen to it and carefully again, yeah? So don't shoot the messenger, please. I'm just the messenger. I'll present you some information today, and stay with the Costas says thinking. I'm not sure what that refers to, but it sounds funny. So let's start by saying one thing, that regardless of, for those of you who are newbies, regardless of what you may think, values are not what we like. or what we dislike. This is a very important distinction. They are actually what's important to us. You can totally hate an activity, absolutely detest it, and yet you still do it because it's important to you. This is one of the most important things to realize. Second is that values, the deepest values and sometimes the most important values to us, are not at the surface of consciousness. In other words, they are not at the conscious level, but operate at the unconscious level. This is, again, utterly important to understand because we're driven in our motivation by our values. Everything we do or not do, everything we consider appropriate or inappropriate, everything that we are spending energy, time on or not, is determined by our values. As I said, those values may operate completely unconsciously, and we may not be consciously aware of why that's happening. However, this is how it works. All our behavior, our motivation in our behavior is based in these values. Hi, Cal. How are you? Now, one more thing why values are so important. Because we all have goals. Personal goals, business goals, career goals, financial goals, relationship goals, health goals, and so on and so forth. Yeah? But the problem is that we're having trouble with our goals. In other words, we have difficulties in achieving our goals because our goals are not in alignment with our values. And what we do according to our values is not in alignment with the goals that we set consciously. I'm going to say that again. When we set goals consciously, if our behavior, in other words, the taking action towards our goals, is not in alignment with those goals. And why is behavior not in alignment? Because we're not motivated to do anything that's not in our values, which means there is a total misalignment between our behavior toward our goals and the goals themselves. In other words, the values that we have differ from the goals we say we want to achieve. Right? Good. So that's one of the key elements just from the get-go. I wanted to say it from the very beginning. Secondly is that it will be a mistake, it's a faux pas, to assume that somebody, a personality, somebody you see online, somebody you see on TV, somebody you see on talk shows, on anywhere, is a certain values level. Guys, there's so many mistakes in this sentence I just said, it's not funny. First of all, nobody is anything. Nobody is a certain values level. So, number two, the personality, the face you see during a show or during a presentation or during an interview is not the real person. That's the persona. The only way you would know how a person thinks in terms of their values levels is to go talk to them and ask them, why is this important to you? Why is what you're doing important to you? Why is it what you just said important to you? and so on and so forth. So that's the second thing that's very important. Yeah. So please don't ask me what values levels would have been Mother Teresa, because I can hallucinate her in all values levels, from 2 to 6 and 7. But it would be my hallucination. Yeah. So we can have an educated guess if we study her whole life and so on and so forth. And then we can kind of by deduction figure out what happened. But otherwise, you will never know about anybody unless you talk to them live and you ask them, why is what you're doing important to you? And then, assuming that they tell you the truth, then you figure out how they think. Good. Does that make sense for you guys? Hi, Gina. Good to see you here. So tell me, please, if this makes sense so I know then to move on. So show me, please, in the chat room if this makes sense. Gina says, I can see too many people are in conflict right now. Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to address that at the end when I'm going to answer the question, why people regress through values levels and what can you do not to. Okay, so people say yes, it makes sense. Shannon says yes. Good, good. What is the truth? Oh, good question. Truth is truth according to which values level? We'll talk about that in a moment. Truth is a very important keyword. But before we continue, I want you to take a piece of paper, or if you're on the phone, open a note file, a note in your phone, and very quickly write down 5 words that represent to you communication. In other words, how else would you say communication? Okay? Do it now. So, 5 words that represent to you communication. Now, communication is not a complicated word. It's something that people use all day long. It's a very commonly used word. Okay, I'm going to wait a little bit for you guys to write this down. And then once you're done, give me some examples in the chat, please. Give me some examples. Give me some examples. Share, connection, exchange, connection, reciprocation, connection, knowing deeply, connection, knowledge sharing, interaction, speak, talk, connect, eye contact, understand, listen, talk, tone of voice, open-mindedness, conflict, two-way, sorry, what was that? Expression, language, action, expression again, motivation, movement, vibing, connection, telepathy, feedback, interfacing, consciousness, convey, playing, convey actions, behaviors, written or vocalized, awareness, rapport, link, people say here, honesty, right, energy. Cool. Now, I want you to notice accepting, somebody says, I want you to notice how little commonality is between the examples that you just wrote. Connection is one that's it came for several people, yeah. But by and large, I don't think we have one word that's common for everybody. Kamal says open, exchange. Exchange is another one that's been frequency, Costa says. Yeah. So notice that I don't think we have one word that's common for everybody. Now, communication, as I said, is not a rarely encountered word. Now, keep this exercise in mind because it's very important in relation to values, because values are words, obviously. So I would like to propose that when we talk to each other, we actually don't understand each other at all. Oh, sure. If it's a series of instructions, A, you do this, then you B, you do that, and so on and so forth. That's pretty fine. That's pretty fine. However, when we get to more abstract and more complex types of thinking and in exchange of words between us, I would like to propose that we don't understand each other unless we bother to deconstruct. In NLP is called complex equivalence. What does that word mean to the other person? And this is extremely important, especially in the context of doing a values alignment. Because sometimes you end up with two different words, and yet people argue with two different words, and yet they mean the same thing. Conversely, they might say the same word and mean things that are worlds apart. And we think we understand each other, right? No, we don't. We're making sense a lot by mind reading a lot. Good, so keep this in mind, yeah? So aside from personal relationships and your relationship with the world in which you live, the understanding of the values as I said, if you're a small business owner or you own a corporation or you are a manager or a team leader, will absolutely give you a lot of control over the exchange and alignment of energy and time, of your energy and time, first of all, but also of the people you are interacting with, so that things don't become so difficult to achieve. And by things, I mean goals, objectives, realizations that even if you have an intellectual conversation with somebody, you don't have to struggle to explain so much what that means. It's actually much easier once you can figure out the values and the meaning of those values for each individual you're interacting with. And again, how they think, not what they think. Good, so let's see, I put a bunch of notes here for myself, some bullet points. So for those of you who've taken trainings already, you have gone through this. It's good to hear it again. For those of you who are newbies, there are some important points to remember in relation to values. And values could be determined only if we take into account three components. It's not only about the words. There are three components that are vitally important in relation to values. First is the nervous system of the person, the neurology of the body, and obviously, most important, the brain. Then it's the environment around the person. The environment, I don't mean mountains, sea, forest, trees, or a jungle of concrete and glass buildings, although that's still environment. Absolutely. However, I mean, all of it, including other people, including things like temperature, dryness, humidity, the presence of nature or not, the everything you can think of that surrounds you. So, and the third thing is the values, the words themselves. These three things cannot be separated. Absolutely cannot be separated, and should not be separated. And way too often, what's happening is that people get enamored, get all caught into the words, and forget the rest. It's almost like this coffee cup here. See the coffee cup here? So we have the cup, which is like the neurology of your body. This is the nervous system that you have. The environment around it, it's hot, cold, humid, dry, and so on and so forth. And we have the coffee in the cup, which is the words, the values themselves. Now, through the test that we take, we can establish the values themselves. But those are just the words. What about the neurology, the cup, and the environment? Because if the environment changes, the coffee in the cup will change too. If I take this cup and put it in the freezer, the coffee will freeze. It's the environment. And the environment is probably more important than anything else in terms of immediate input on someone's values. So you cannot ever separate the three. That's true in business, as in personal relationships. It's true in health, family, personal development. Everywhere you talk about values, you cannot separate these three. I cannot emphasize how important this is. Because our environment right now has changed tremendously. We're in a situation we've never been before. Our environment has changed massively. Obviously, it's going to have an input, and what an input, on our values. Now, there are different ways of reacting to this, and again, I'm going to address this based on also to answer the question that I have toward the end of today's chat. So every person has values. Please don't think that somebody doesn't have values. Every person has values, only that their values may be different from yours. In fact, probably most likely will be different from yours. The probability that someone's values is different from yours is far greater than the likelihood that they have similar values. There may be some in common, yeah, I agree. But there is, if there is a perfect match, I don't even know if that's possible. The chance will be probably 1 in a million or more. Every individual set of values thus is different from another's. That doesn't mean there is nothing we can do about that, because we know from NLP we know how to change values and how to align values and all of that, which is beyond the purpose of this conversation today, obviously. As I said, it will take me 5 days to teach the whole section on values. But I want you also to understand another thing and to remember, no set of values or type of thinking is inherently better than another. The difference between values type of thinking like 2 compared to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 and so on and so forth is just the level of complexity. So obviously 6 will be more complex than 3, and 5 will be more complex than 4, and so on and so forth. And therefore, a lower values level complexity cannot possibly understand a more complex type of thinking. If you have two people interacting, and let's say for argument's sake that a person is mostly operating in values level 4. I say mostly because in the developed world, we don't. It's very hard to find somebody who is just operating at one values level. My experience is that we do what's called kind of parallel tracks, and we have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a certain percentage, and mostly one values level at which we all operate, which becomes the primary operating values level, because we can have leftovers from past values levels and also openings in further values levels. But there is one at which we operate. So back, let's say you have a person which mostly operates at values level 4, interacting with a person that mostly operates at values level 7. 4 cannot understand 7. Okay, I gave you, in fact, 4 will think of 7 as being 3. And I'm going to explain in a moment why that is. In fact, 4 will look at 5 and think that 5 is 3. So it's impossible. So if you are trying, emphasis on trying, to make somebody understand you, and they are not operating at the same values level as you are, but less complex, you're banging your head against the brick wall. They will understand you up to a certain degree, but not to the degree you may want to communicate. And that's fine, by the way, because what's the best values level to be at? And you're going to say 7, and I'm going to say you're wrong, totally wrong. The best values level to be at is the values level that matches your environment. There is no advantage in operating at a more complex values level when your environment requires from you a simpler way of thinking. It's very simple. That's how it works. I can give you examples like, and I'll do it, but once I introduce the values levels for the newbies. Good. Values are not related to intelligence. In fact, sometimes you take somebody, again, I'm not picking on any particular values level, I'm just, giving you examples. A person operating at values level 3, that's far more intelligent than somebody operating at values level 6 or 5 or 4, doesn't matter. Because there is no relationship between intelligence, IQ, and complexity of thinking or values levels. And at the same time, this leads me to the next thought, which is the understanding of values levels is not to pigeonhole people. It's not to put people in boxes. Oh, you're a... In fact, in the trainings, for those of you who have taken trainings with me, if I hear this, oh, he's a 3. Oh, I hit the wall. I hit the roof. Because It's incorrect. It denotes lack of understanding. First of all, nobody is anything. When you take we used to call them paper and pencil instrument, now it's everything online, but when you take a test, that's not who you are. It has nothing to do with who you are. It actually has to do with a snapshot in time of how you were thinking in that very moment about that very context. That's not who you are. So please be very, very careful once you begin to play with values and understand values. Do not put anybody in boxes because of this, because it doesn't work this way. You are actually putting yourself in a box if you do that. Good, let's see. Yeah, I said that I already hinted at this, and I said I am going to expand a lot. Under stress, people tend to revert to the last completed values level. Tend to. I didn't say they will necessarily, because it depends on many, many factors. Some people under stress progress to the next values level. But it depends. It depends on many factors. Each values level, one of the factors is that each values level has, Costa, you said acceptance is the key. Acceptance is a value, you see? You just put a value there. Acceptance is important for you. Cool. So I was saying that each values level has 3 stages. We call it the entry stage, the full-on, and the exit. Yeah. So depending where a person is in these 3 stages, a stress can push them backwards or forwards. But this is not the only thing. There are many more factors. But this is one of the factors. In general, and this is a broad generalization, people tend to think of themselves or describe themselves, meaning their values, with words which are or may be of a higher values level than the neurology of the body. And that's fine, because it's called the aspiration factor. We all aspire to be more than we are. And that drives us forward, and that's fine. However, this could be almost like we're tricking ourselves. It's almost like we try to pretend we're a little more than we really are. As long as we're conscious of that, and we realize that nothing's wrong no matter where we are, then there is no problem. But if we manage so well to fool ourselves, I talk many times with graduates who come like this, and I am a 7 who's now proceeding into 8. I'm looking across and I go, I see 3 proceeding into 4, but I zip my mouth because it's none of my business to say anything. See, that's called deceiving ourselves. And we all have this tendency. But unless we become very, very honest inside ourselves, all the work that we do personally for personal development, we may miss the mark because we're working somewhere where we're not. That's again a very, very important point. Each different way of thinking different values level has two sides. It's the conscious side and the unconscious side. So we can manifest the values level on the conscious side when everything's fine and it has positive results. In other words, we produce behavior that puts us in control over our environment, and it's all good. And negative ways of producing behaviors that don't give us what the results that we're after. Values change, yes, and we don't have the same values we had when we were kids or teenagers or 10 years ago or even 1 year ago. They may be similar 1 year ago. Maybe, I'm saying. But watch out, there'll be a massive shift in values in general in people as a result of the crisis we're going through right now. This has happened once after another big event, September 11, 2001. Then it happened the London bombings in the UK, for the UK. It happened for Australia with the Bali bombings. Then it happened again in 2008 when we had the real estate bubble pop. Events like this tend to change values a lot. A lot. So the point being, values are not cast in stone. They do change with environment as well. And also, the complexity of thinking, and this is another part of the answer for the question, why do some people revert under stress and why do people move forward? And the complexity of thinking must at least match or exceed, so being greater than, yeah, the complexity of the problems of life. So at least it must match or exceed the complexities of the problems encountered in life in order for us to have some modicum of control over our own lives, or to have a lot of control over our own lives. Now, again, another reason why I think that the understanding and work with values is extremely important is because, sure, we can operate on beliefs, and we know how to change beliefs if you know timeline therapy, it's very easy to let go of limiting beliefs, and you should, by the way. However, each value has, if you operate on values, a value has far more leverage than beliefs. Because each value, imagine here is a value, whatever, I don't have an object here to exemplify. Anyway, so imagine here is a value, yeah, here, right here. Hanging onto that or that value, or to it, to be more precise, are a bunch of beliefs. Beliefs are clustered around values. Sure, we can change each belief individually, but that presupposes, number one, that we're aware consciously of all our beliefs, especially the limiting ones, which we may not be. Yeah, which we may not be. But since the beliefs are all clustered around values, and if we operate on the value, what do you think will happen with the limiting beliefs? So we operate on the value and we change all the limitations, the limiting beliefs that is, or limiting decisions that hang on to that value in one go, which gives you far more leverage in terms of time of action that, saves you energy and gets the results done much faster. Good. So far, so good. Give me a sign in the chat, please, so I know if I make sense here and you're with me. Especially for those of you who are not trained in values. Question: wouldn't values and beliefs be the same thing? No, they're not the same thing. Values are far more abstract than beliefs. In terms of abstraction versus specificity, values are more abstract. Yeah, they're not the same as beliefs. In terms of logical levels of thinking, starting from specific all the way to abstraction, yeah, values are more abstract than beliefs. Beliefs are of a lower chunk than values. Good, I get good. Brett says values are a higher contextualization than beliefs. I call them, a high level of abstraction. But Brett, you are correct in what you're saying. Yes, that is correct. Good. Now, for those of you who don't know, again, a little bit of just a tiny little bit of history where all this comes from. By the way, is the screen still blurry for you guys, or can you see me clearly? Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Carol says yes, clear. Is that the image is clear, or clear in what I said? Please give me a little bit of beliefs of feedback, because my screen is blurry pretty much all the time, and I'm a little concerned that I will have to redo this and record it separately to be able to post it, because it's embarrassing. I can't post it like this. Paul says comes and goes, blurry, intermittent, glitchy image. Oh boy, probably I'll have to re-record it. Only when I move it's blurry, yeah. I noticed that. Unfortunately, I can't stand totally still. Blurry. Sorry, guys. By the way, I changed nothing, absolutely nothing in all my configuration here. And I'm on the highest band Wi-Fi. But audio is good. At least audio is good. Yeah, well, probably I'm going to re-record it and post them both. Yeah. Emma says mostly okay. Yeah, well, thank you. So just a tidbit of history. So Clare Graves, he was born in 1914 and died in 1986. And he was a professor of psychology at a Union College, specialist in the theory of personality, in industrial and medical problems. He's been a clinical psychologist and consultant for numerous governmental agencies, institutions, industries, including the Criminal Court of Cleveland, Schenectady City Hospital. And this is from information that I got from the website claregraves.com. So what is interesting about Clare Graves? Two things. One of them is an unfortunate situation because he didn't publish his work. According to Chris Cowan, who was one of his favorite collaborators, and who together with Don Beck wrote the first books on spiral dynamics, uh, he meaning Graves, burned a lot of his papers before his death because he was acutely aware of what happened to Abraham Maslow, um, who was virtually taken apart when he came out with his hierarchy of needs and the other theoretical work that he put forth. And if you ever worked in academia, or if you followed around, you know how cruel they can be with people with absolutely novel and out-of-the-box ideas. So unfortunately for us, Graves never published his work, and fortunately for us, Chris Cowan, um, and now Natasha Todorovich are continuing the work, and also Dawn Back. And um, I'm doing my best also to put forward this information because I think it's extremely important. Anyway, Graves started trying to find out the top level of a psychologically mature human being. He, like everybody else, thought that the human being is a closed system. Now, this is important because this is a mistake that people in general, I'm making a broad generalization, they think that human beings are closed systems, and they're not. And Graves have found out just that. Human being nature is not a set thing. It's permanently emerging. Yeah, it's an open system. It's not a nirvana, a final state, a something that when you can perfect everybody to reach that level, is going to be just great. Because once you reach a level, what's happening is the energy becomes available for the opening of the next level. And so theoretically, there is no end to the possible development of a human being. Anyway, his work is very little discussed today in general, but they did attract attention. And in the book, I'm going to quote myself now a little bit. I mentioned a study done by the Stanford Research Institute back in 1970, was it 74, I think my memory says. Yes, 1974. And here is what it says. And I'm reading at page 70 for those of you who have the book. Over the past 50 years, research in the fields of psychology, sociology, and psychiatry has shown that there are clearly marked limits to the amount of changes and the nature of them and the mind that the mind can deal with. According to Science Policy Research Unit, a Tavistock, Sussex University facility, future shocks is defined as physical and psychological distress arising from the excess load on the decision-making mechanism of the human mind. In other words, a series of events which come so fast that the human brain cannot absorb the information. After continuous shocks, the large targeted population group discovers that it does not want to make choices anymore, and apathy can take over. And in short, if too many changes happen in a short period, most people are not capable of successfully dealing with the situation. Why? So keep this in mind, file it at the back of your mind. Again, I'm going to answer at the end when I will address the question of what do we do not to revert to values levels, because it's directly connected to values. Yeah, absolutely. So Stanford Research Institute has the Center for Study of Social Policy at Stanford Research Institute has, in the study called Changing Images of Man, I'm on page 72 now, the authors have recognized the appearance of new ways of thinking. New ways of thinking meaning what? New values levels, right? New values levels. And they also mention Graves in their study. However, for whatever reason, which we could speculate, but it goes to intent, so I haven't been part of that study, and I didn't. The full study, I don't think it's even available today. I think it was a redacted version that was published in 1977 or 70, I think 77. For whatever reason, they decided to go with Maslow and his hierarchy of needs rather than with Graves' values levels. So that's a little bit of history for you. And now let's go through a little bit of description of each values level. And again, for those of you who are trained, pay attention. Values level, let me put this forth from the very beginning. in each one of the various levels, the supreme motivation is existence, is survival. But survival takes different forms and different ways according to different types of thinking. So values level 1, 3, 5, and 7 are called expressive. And that means that the locus of decision making, the place of decision making. Hi, Rhonda, good to see you. Wow, long time no see. Welcome. So, values levels 1, 3, 5, and 7 are called expressive because the place, the locus of decision making is inside the individual. The individual make their own decisions based on their judging capabilities of thinking, etc., etc. Values levels 2, 4, 6, and 8 are called sacrificial because the locus of decision making is outside the individual, either in the family or clan, or in the system, or in the people with whom, like-minded people with whom we choose to associate. So anywhere outside the individual in a group of people. So the decision making doesn't come from within. Now, this is again a very important bit of information for those of you who are in business. Because not everybody in business has the locus of their decision making, thus motivation, inside themselves. Not everybody is self-motivated. And some people need permanent outside motivation, and some people don't. Because those that are self-motivating, if you try to motivate them every day, they'll get bored. Not only bored, exasperated. In their mind, they'll go, I wish it would just get off my back. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Let me to work. Let me be alone. I'll just do whatever you tell me to do, but just get off my back. Right? So values level 1 is expressive. It's simply like another mammal. It's automatic. And by the way, let me define words, speaking of words. When I say the word automatic, I mean unconscious responses. Automatic is the knee-jerk reflex that I referred to in many, many, many of my articles that I wrote on NLPcoaching.com. Many of you know what I mean. So automatic, unconscious responses. Vicky, by the way, we all have that in a smaller or larger degree. But values level 1 is no consciousness of self and no separation from the environment. So the individual and the environment are one. There is no separation between me and it's life as just another animal. The individual simply reacts to, so doesn't initiate, but reacts to instinct, sensations of his or her, of their basic physical needs. It's the old joke of the 4 F's: flight, fight, food, and sexual behavior. Right? So pretty much that's it. There is nothing else. Does that mean the nervous system's capabilities are not there? No, it doesn't. Because they are all there. The capabilities are there. However, they are not accessible at this level. Good. So life is like a biological entity, like another animal, without any rationality. Think of your cat or your dog. Uh, they may be even trained, but think of a wild animal. Think of an animal in the wild. When it's hungry, it goes hunting for food or grazing. If it's not hungry, doesn't care whether the food is there or not. Yeah. When it's thirsty, it goes trying to find water. When it's sleepy, just lies down and maybe finds a shade and sleeps, and so on and so forth. It's very basic physiological needs. And values level 1 is not present on the planet today. It's just not present anymore. Maybe when I wrote the book, and that was 2017, so it was 3 years ago, I could still find some small families of people in the Amazonian jungle um, who were still living in groups of 15 to 20, very deep in the jungle. They could be spotted only from the air, so from helicopter flights above, uh, but not even in a tribal format, just simple small families. And we could assume that they could still be like values level 1 type of life, but we don't know. It's an assumption. Good, values level 2 now is sacrificial. Now notice that we go from one expressive all the way 180 degrees to the other, which is sacrificial. And no, you can't jump a values level. I mean, you can try. I'm going to address that. It doesn't work. It creates a stuck state from which you cannot progress. Now, values level 2 is sacrificial, meaning the decision making is not inside the individual. If I'm hungry now, I'm just not going to go hunt for food. Now it's the decision of the family or the clan or the tribe in which I am part of. And when they say we eat all together. If they say we don't eat, we don't eat. And so on and so forth. So the individual here is protected and feels safe because he belongs, because I shouldn't be, gender specific, because they belong to this group, to this clan, to this in extended family, if you wish. And if you think of tribe as in ancient times, you would make a mistake, because even today, there is a very large percentage of the world population which still lives in clans of values level 2, or small communities in villages, even in the developed world, can still exhibit a lot of values level 2 type of thinking. Or some areas in big metropolitan areas, in the big metropolitan regions of the world. Think of the very, very poor areas, for instance, in Brazil, in Rio, or in Guatemala City, or even in the United States. There are some areas where you can, even in big cities like LA or Chicago or New York, New York City, that is, you can have areas where there is a lot of type of clan-ish behavior, and people live very much with a high percentage of values level 2. This is the type of thinking that's not determined, but has a lot of, when I say the word magical, I need to be careful, magical beliefs and superstitions. Now, when I say magic here is the simpler way of looking at magic. What is magic? And we need to define it, because the word magic, like any other word, means something in values level 2, something else in 3, something else in 4, something else in 5 and 6, and so on and so forth. It's the world of the traditional Hawaiian kahuna, of all of the shamans, ancient Egyptian magic, tribal magic, and in the human being, interestingly enough, values level 2 is ruled by the unconscious mind. If level 1 was ruled by instincts and sensation, values level 2 is ruled mostly by the emotional side, by the unconscious mind. Yeah, the knee-jerk reflex, the Pavlovian response. Yeah. Values level 2, they are neurologically, they're not far removed from values level 1, but as I said, the center of gravity is situated now not into simply instinctual physiological responses, but on the emotional center, on the unconscious mind. Yeah, the emotional center outweighs all the others. And so this is the emotional human being that it's pacing his or her responses, whether this feels good or not, and that is coming, of course, from the group, from the outside. This person always wants something pleasant and moves away from everything that's not pleasant. Good. Now, as I said, we encounter values level 2 people all day long. And we have a lot of indigenous communities that have still values level 2. And by the way, do not for a second think that values level 2 are less than anything just because you happen to test at values level 4 or 5. In fact, I think most of us would be unbelievably served if we go back and reconnect with some of the values, also neurologically, with some of the things that values level 2 shamans are so connected with, especially if we happen to be moving into higher complexity values levels like 8, because 8 is nothing else than a rehash of 2. And how are we going to do 8 if we have forgotten completely 2? Now, we can revisit 2 with the understanding, the more complex understanding that we have, sure. So, good. Now, values level 3, let's move on. It's expressive again, which means the locus of decision making is inside the individual. And now values level 3 is a very important values level, because here is the first time when we develop the consciousness of self. And in values level 3, an individual develops new behaviors, because now he needs to, I keep saying he, and it's not gender specific at all, because the individual, the person, needs to control their environment. That's the type of thinking and behavior. The individual needs to control their environment for personal survival. So in other words, they have left the safety and security of the tribe, the clan, the family, and now they are alone. They want to make their own decisions. They want to be in control of their own life. However, since there is nobody to take care of them, the problem is that they have now to fight against the world because they are alone. I mean, they don't have to fight, but at this stage, they cannot figure out any other type of behavior. That's where they are at. It's still a very instinctual based response, but is based on thinking, is based on the conscious mind. So here the conscious mind is active, the center, the thinking center has kicked in, but it's not a disciplined nor a trained conscious mind. See, it's like your friend, your dog, who when trained can be your greatest friend, or untrained can bite you. That's how the conscious mind is to us, to us meaning the being that we are. So it's a values level 3 thinks consciously. The consciousness of self has arisen, but it appears here like I, me, and myself. My personal needs right now, right here, in the moment, without patience, and very, very instinct based. I want this now, I'm going to take it. No thought of consequences, no thought of what would happen in 2 days, 5 days, if I take this action or I produce this behavior. It's a deductive type of logic, cold-hearted, calculated to suit their own purposes. Of course, they can play the game of pretending they are doing for other people's benefits, of course. No problem. And it's a ruthless and very aggressive type, physically aggressive, I mean, type of behavior based on, and I put this in air quotes here, even the image is blurry so you know what I'm doing, is based on reasoning. As I said, deductive thinking. The reason is there, it's present, yes. Albeit false in many times. And my favorite way of describing this, and you heard me say this in the trainings, is a instant gratification. Yes, Vicky, absolutely. Is an unconscious conscious mind, if you wish. It's a conscious mind that's not trained correctly or not trained at all. And some people can develop a lot of knowledge, even if their primary mode of thinking is stationed in values level 3. Yeah, some people can get into a depth of something, some subject, and develop a lot of knowledge. The problem is that many times logic doesn't necessarily translate in understanding. It's a repetitive type of knowledge. I simply repeat what I've been told, what I learned, and I take the most advantage of that to suit my own purposes. As I said, I, me, and myself are the defining words for the behavior you notice in a person that exhibits values level 3. Values level 3 is quick at taking action, which is very good. They don't shy away from action. They don't postpone, oh, I'll do it when I have time, let me see. Let me think of it, we'll figure it out, maybe, possible, I don't know. No, none of that. They're very quick at taking action, very good, and we should all remember that when we have problems with taking action. But they want everything instant money, instant becoming millionaires. All the schemes of get rich fast overnight, stem from the thinking of values level 3. Instant fame, instant sex, instant anything and everything is instant, yeah? Which many times may not be such a great idea. But most importantly, the behavior, the taking action is not necessarily on par. Some people take a lot of action, as I said, but they're missing the knowledge. And if action and knowledge are not working evenly like this, yeah, let me see how to put this. It can create stagnation because one has to wait for the other. There are people who have a lot of knowledge but take no action. There are people who take a lot of action but don't have sufficient knowledge. So one of the two is always left behind. And actually, they should operate like this in parallel. Knowledge and action should operate as much as possible in parallel, because otherwise the problem is stagnation. Yeah. And this is true, by the way, for all values levels. This is not only true for values level 3. The doing, the taking action must match the knowledge, and vice versa. So back to values level 3. The learning and development here is based on thinking upon words, but as you know, values level 3 doesn't have a lot of patience. In 20 minutes, they're done. And if your communication to them or the task you are giving them in business takes longer than 20 minutes, you lose them. They cannot sustain a long-term focus on a certain subject. It's not to say that they cannot be deep. If it's something that interests them to give them immediate advantages, they can do this, especially if values level 4 is open as well. This is the person that usually responds to a Skinnerian, as in B.F. Skinner, type of behavioral conditioning. And this is the person that the others call, oh, you're so egocentric. They are egocentric and selfish in the bad sense. So there are two types of ego. Is the ego that's selfish, I, me, and myself, and my own needs right now, the hell with others, and that's values level 3. Or ego with capital E, which I call with capital E, which is the self with capital self, the knowing who you are and be okay with who you are, with all your good parts and bad parts and everything, and be just simply okay because you are. Yeah. Values level 3 likes power over others, exploitation. They are psychologically paranoid for survival. But it's an unbelievably important level because awareness of self, first of all, appears here. And these are the people that have had the courage to go and tame the mighty river. These are the people that, by the way, we're talking now about colonizing Mars. Do you think we're going to send to Mars a bunch of tree huggers? That would be a big mistake. In fact, the best people to colonize another planet or to go anywhere are people who still have a good solid dose of values level 3. Because these are the people that dare to take action, to do the doing of things that many other people will never do. So that's values level 3 briefly. If seen from values level 4 perspective, let me give you some characteristics of 3. So from values level 4 perspective, 3 could be called clearly a psychopath or sociopath. They are shallow. They can be very charming, extremely charming, but very superficial charm. They have an unbelievably powerful sexual energy because that's the hormones inside. The hormones differ according to different values levels. This is the bad boy or the bad girl, everybody falls in love with because they have a tremendous sexual energy. And that's, by the way, hormonal, yeah? They love to present themselves as being grandiose, or exaggerately very high self-esteem. And so a false upper, super, look at me, I'm so important. Look at me, look at me. They need continuous stimulation, otherwise these are the person that if you take away their phone and everything, put them in an empty room and say to them, okay, you stay here for half an hour and do nothing, but there is a machine that gives them electric shock, they will rather give themselves electric shock rather than do nothing. They cannot survive half an hour without, half an hour, no, that's long, 10 minutes, I think that was the experiment. Because they need continuous stimulation, yeah? They're cunning, they're lying, they are highly manipulative, they have an ingrained lack of remorse, a lack of guilt, they cannot feel guilt. They feel a lot of shame though. They have no ability for deep, lasting human emotions, like, love, compassion, care, stuff like that. Although they can play a good game, Um, they love a parasitic lifestyle. They enjoy sexual promiscuity. They have a lot of early unresolved behavioral patterns. And of course, as we said, very impulsive, and everything is instant gratification of all desires. So from values level 4 perspective, this is how we could describe values level 3. We can also say that therefore they are irresponsible, they don't accept responsibility for their own actions, uh, and they have a criminal versatility, if you want to put it this way. Good. Finally, now let's talk a little bit about values level 4. And by the way, folks, for those of you who have gone through the master practitioner, you understand that we barely touch the surface. And pretty much every year I keep adding information and I keep adding stuff to the values level. So we're just touching a little bit the surface here. Nevertheless, especially for those of you in business, this little tiny bit of information, I see how it can help you to look across at the person or people you are interacting with and realize, at least start from the premise that they don't think like you and they think differently from you, and you are the one most flexible, and you can change your communication and behavior towards them to achieve the results that together, create the result in your business venture or in your corporation or in your team or in the team you're managing. Values level 4 now is sacrificial. And here is a new idea that I have. I'm not making a postulation yet, but it's a new idea that I had. It's almost like an intermediate stage, if you wish, between the first 3 values levels and the next 3. It's almost an intermediate stage which is very, very hard to surpass. The primary motivation in values level 4 being sacrificial, first of all, doesn't come from inside the individual, comes from outside. This time not from the clan or for the extended family or from the tribe, but from a system, any system. Any system that person has been trained in and that they accept for themselves. The primary motivation in values level 4 is away from. They expect to be punished if they make a mistake because guilt is very high in values level 4. Values level 4 desires and operates the best with certain rules for living. And I mean certain as in certainty, security, order, self-sacrifice. And everything is postponed for later in values level 4. Later in life, later in heaven, nirvana, rebirth in a new life, everything's later. Values level 4 is very righteous, very judgmental, and has a lot of prejudice. Is based on dialectic and the doctrine of opposites. Now, this is another very important point in values level 4. In values level 4, everything is either or. There are no shades of gray. Everything is either like this or like that. Either right or wrong. By the way, nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing anything. I'm just telling you the defining characteristics of each values level. And they're all useful in that type of environment, by the way. You may recoil in horror when we went through values levels. You go, God, what a terrible person. And I promise you, in an environment of values level 3, you better be like that. Otherwise, your chance for survival is very small. So back to four. Four is this type of thinking which is very dichotomous, very either or, because there are absolute rules, and my rules, which I get from my system and my book, are right, and the others are wrong. Remember we talked last time in the Facebook Live where the video was good about the position 1, 2, and 3, and how to observe and how to begin to learn the other's perspective. Values level 4 doesn't want to learn the other perspective, doesn't have a position 3, and is always in opposition with somebody or something who doesn't belong to the same system or doesn't obey the same set of rules from the same book as our person values level 4. So there is always a book, a manual, a set of rules to by which they live their life and by which they assume the right versus wrong. And so they become very intolerant and very prejudiced against any variation from that norm. So they have a lot of bias because everything has to be orderly, predictable, and unchangeable. Because the only way to survive in this way of thinking is to obey by those rules. It must be a complete and absolute power in the hands of one single ruler. In the past was the king, the monarch, the religious head, whether it was a bishop or whatever. It could be the government, it could be the prime minister, it could be the president. Anyway, there's an absolute person at the top, a ruler at the top, who has a set of rules which are written clearly. It could be in the operation manual, as in the military, or in the police force. Anywhere where you encounter a book, or in the corporation, by the way, operation manual, in any corporation. Anywhere where you encounter a set of rules like this by which the person abides, you are dealing with a system, and when you say the word system, you automatically talk about values level 4. They're highly ideological. Here is this just one truth. Speaking about the truth, yes, somebody mentioned truth at the beginning, the word truth. For values level 2, there is just one truth, one right way to everything, and everything else is the wrong way, obviously, because the right way is my way, my right way, because it's written in the book. So it's a very rigid and dogmatic and redundant system of thinking. It has a box, it has deductive thinking, and keeps roaming around the box, inside the box. Yeah? Inside the box, coming up with new ideas about the same thing. That's why it's redundant, very, very redundant. Now, don't think that values level 4 is wrong or bad. It's not. In fact, the values level 4 employees are the best employees possible because they will work hard just to do the right thing. They will be the best employees ever. They will love to be the employees of the month, acknowledged for their hard work. And throughout history, there have been different versions of values level 4s. The most interesting thing is when people are, as we say here, gobsmacked or shocked or surprised to find out that all isms belong to values level 4. Because on the surface, for instance, socialist communism, the communist version of socialism, and the fascist version of socialism, because you understand fascism is still a socialist system, are in opposition to each other. But if you think in terms of values level 4, they're the same. They are both 4. This comes as a shock to people. But the basic premise of 4 is postpone, reward for later, while I work hard now. Yeah? And it's a communitarian, it's a collectivist system. All isms, everything you can think that's an ism belongs to values level 4, including corporatism, which is funny actually, because people think of corporatism as capitalism, another ism. Funny. Many of our graduates tend to think of values level of capitalism as belonging to 5. It has a lot of 5, but as a system, is still in values level 4. Now, if you listen carefully when you talk to a good solid values level 4, you're going to hear words like should, must, ought to, have to. And the motivation is usually away from, if I don't do this, something wrong's going to happen, or something bad's going to happen, or I'm going to get fired, or I won't have this, I won't be able to, I won't be capable. And also, to connect with what we discussed last time, values level 4 has a lot of unworthiness. I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not capable, and so on and so forth. And that's unworthiness and not being good enough and feeling bad about oneself is one plague that people in values level 4 have to deal with. It's the people that are mostly thinking inside values level 4 suffer of that. And what they have to do in order to get out of that, they have to take action and do it anyway. It was an old book, it appeared in the 70s. I don't remember now the author, but it was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. The only way to get out of that is to do it, is to take action. And paradoxically, by taking action toward one's goals, one moves, if it's already at the exit level, one moves out of values level 4 into 5. If the conditions are there, neurology and the environment permits. Good. There are, this is anecdotal and based on the feedback that I have received many times in the training or in my private discussions with graduates or friends or people in my environment, acquaintances. And it seems that for the last century, and also in the 19th century previously, one of the characteristics was that because we had such a good values level 4, parents have played a destructive role on their children. I mean, it's not the parents' fault. They have been brought up inside the system themselves, and they have done their best to the best of their abilities to help and assist their children to grow up. But many times, and by the way, I'm going to be very direct here, and I apologize again, I don't mean to offend anybody, but many times fathers have literally castrated their sons because fathers have played the role of the alpha male. And as you know, in a family unit or a small group of people, there is no room for 2 alpha males. So their sons have been robbed of their ability, literally castrated by their fathers. And so mothers have done the same to their daughters, creating out of their daughters a competitor for the alpha males in the family. It has produced. I'm actually writing a little book about this right now. It's a lot to research. I'm still in the process of writing this, and it's a lot of stuff going on there, but we're suffering even now, the generations that are still, alive today, we're suffering the consequences of our parents' behavior in many instances. More than you think, unless people have chosen to take different actions, the children have chosen to take different actions and reject, but even if they rejected the parents' values, their life has still been defined by the actions of their parents. And if their parents were hardcore values level 4 thinkers, very judgmental, very righteous, yeah, those have consequences that we deal with even today in our current life, and we meet these consequences every single day. Especially that now under this stress, it's my postulation, and actually long time ago, Ted and I, we had lots of conversations about this. We are going into a new form of values level 4 for society, a brand new reinvention of values level 4. So we better be careful where we're going to. Good, values level 5 now, briefly. Values level 5 is now expressive again. It's one of the keywords is expectancy. They expect things to happen the way they want them. They're very positive this time. They move towards. Their motivation is mostly towards in values level 5. Remember I said in 4, these are broad generalizations, you understand, right? But in values level 5, motivation is mostly toward, because everything now, it's not black and white anymore. Everything has many features, many forms. Values level 5 is keywords, if you want, are desire for independence. I want to be my own boss. I'm sick and tired of working for a stupid boss. I want to have my own business. I want to be competent. I want to base my decisions on science and materialism and controlling the physical universe with the power of my mind. Now, don't think that values level 5 is so great and values level 4 is so bad. Values level 4 is excellent, and we all have to have completed 4 in order to move to 5, because if we haven't completed 4, we didn't learn what we needed to learn out of the structure and discipline of 4, and we can't create a successful 5. And 5 is not also good either. In some parts, the conscious parts are very, very good. The unconscious parts are not so good. Anyway, industrialization belongs to values level 5. As you can see, we're stepping out of the industrial revolution era. We're moving into information. And so it had to do with autonomy, with independence, with freedom. These are keywords for values level 5. Progress, and values level 5 is very, very, very materialistic. In values level 5, don't talk to me about the soul, man. Well, that's stupid. You're a bunch of molecules, atoms, electrical exchange in between the cells, electromagnetism, yes, this is physics, I can recognize it. It's everything about this, there is nothing else to you. So at the end of your life, you're done. You're done, you're gone, you're done. Bye. So values level 5 then is very scientifically oriented, driving technology, yeah, development through the exercise of, and when I say these words are so typical 5, the capable and rational thinking mind. Yeah, values level 5 is capable of abstract thinking. 4 is capable of abstract thinking too, by the way. And it's capable of inductive thinking as well. And one important key element of values level 5 is individual freedom. Very, very important. So don't get confused between 3 and 5. 3 is physically aggressive and therefore operates forcibly in a very unpredictable manner. 5 doesn't do that. Yeah, 5 can. Oh, thank you, Kali. I know it's blurry. I will have to re-record. I apologize. I will have to re-record all this, and I will have to post a decent video. I don't know what happened. Everything was fine, and all of a sudden my bandwidth is down. So back to 5, yeah? So then don't get confused between 3 and 5. It's very easy to get confused, especially that you have a person values level 3, in which the cup, the neurology of the body, is 3, but the words that you hear and some superficial behavior appears as being 5. That's what we call 5 inside of 3. And many times that can happen. Yeah, so don't get confused between the two. And you can notice very well under stress, especially now that's been a stressful situation, or maybe still is for some people in your environment. Now you can see based on their reaction. Do they get pissed off? Do they get angry? Do they go punch somebody? Are they only getting angry verbally, or are they getting physically, or are they getting depressed? Are they getting all sad and how do they act under stress? Yeah. Values level 5 has to do with comfort, lifestyle, money, prosperity, market economy, very much. True market economy, not what we see today. That's not true market economy. Competition, which means there are a lot of people that compete and they come up with ideas, and it's what I call friendly competition, which drives progress. Not competition as it I'm going to take you down. That's more like values level 3, 5. But competition in, wow, you've done this. That's cool. I want to do it too. How did you do it? Which is friendly competition, which drives progress forward and actually helps both people. Values level 5 is the first one when win-win is possible. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's the first values level where win-win is possible. So think now, if you work with people in your environment and you have a bunch of values level 5 with 3, 5 working together. They could, if managed correctly, drive the business forward tremendously, because they encourage each other and they are inspired when one of them wins. Usually these people work mostly in sales because they're independent there. And when somebody makes a win and somebody has a big sale, they go, wow, cool, I want it too. And then is this friendly competition that acts as a motivator. So if you manage a group of people like this, know what's necessary. Now, are you operating and working with values level 5, 3, 5, or are you having a good dose of 4, 5? Now, because if you work with 4, 5, boy. Oh, Brett says it may be overloaded by traffic. Refresh and try again. Are you telling me to do this, Brett? I can't do that. For me, it's just one thing I'll have to do. I'll have to re-record, I know. I apologize again. I'm really sorry. It came out of nowhere. What can I do? Not much, huh? So 5 is the business owner. 5 is the entrepreneur. 5 is 5 started, with the enlightenment. The enlightenment, not in enlightenment of consciousness, but the enlightenment, the time period, the radical humanist message of the 17th and 18th centuries. And as I said, is the industrialized era. Yeah. It's a very reasonable, rational type of thinking here. Very AD, very auditory digital, very dissociated from emotions. 5 is not an emotional values level at all. In fact, 5's, a good, solid values level 5 thinker will be very dissociated, very non-emotional. In fact, it will be accused for being cold and calculated and pretty much emotionless, which doesn't make a 5 very very appreciated by an environment where you have a bunch of values level, mainly 4 and 6, because both 4 and 6 operate more emotionally and lead more humanness, if that's a word. I think I made one. Yeah. So what does a 5 want? A beautiful house, wants to have 1 or 2 cars, wants to have great vacations. And paradoxically, by achieving, quote unquote, the good life, then 5 can progress further to 6. You have to understand one thing, that you cannot jump a values levels. You cannot give up eating McDonald's junk food. Sorry, McDonald's, I have to say it. It's junk food, okay? I have my own opinion. I know other people don't, and hopefully Facebook's not going to take me down just because I said my opinion about McDonald's. But anyway, because nowadays you got to be careful what you talk about, right? So you have to have McDonald's before you can reject it. You have to eat junk food before you can get to clean food. If you never ate junk food, you're never going to know what you reject. So this is exactly with the righteous and judgmental for 6 people who go give up your ego. Well, it's fine. Eventually, I agree. But you have to, how can you give up something that you don't have? First of all, you have to have it. You be aware of it, and then you can give it up. Yeah, if you choose to. But you can't give up something that you don't have. And too many people are asking their family members, relationships, as in personal relationships, uh, work relationships, the people they work with, whether they manage or they're managed by or work in teams, to give them something they don't have. And that all is related to values levels. Because if you're asking somebody here to give you something here, they're not there yet, and it's not their fault. Okay, let's wait for the image to stabilize. Okay, so you're asking them here, and you're asking them here where this finger is, this hand is, which wiggles the fingers. Yeah, but they're not there. They're here. How are they going to be able to give you what you're asking them for? They can't, and it's not their fault, by the way. If you are the manager, if you are the boss, if you are the owner, if you are the one with the most flexibility of behavior in a relationship, you either pull back and say, okay, I step out of this game. I'm asking you to give me something that you don't possess, or manage them differently. Change the way you interact with them. Change the way you communicate with them. Change the way you ask them to do something in a business context or not. Because otherwise you're going to just end up in endless explanations and communication problems and misunderstandings. And I know it's easier said than done, folks. This is not easy. But by repetition, you train yourself. You train yourself to do this. Good. Let's move quickly. Values level 6, sacrificial again. Values level 6 in and of itself is a closed system. Even if it belongs per total the human being and human neurology, I said it's an open system. Values level 6 itself is a closed system. It's very, very observational. I observe. I know everything there is now. It's a very complex, by the way, way of thinking. Very complex. Think of it. Einstein physics came to much out of values level 6. Quantum physics comes much out of values level 6 type of thinking. It's a very complex way of thinking. However, it's very observational. It's very relativistic. Everything's relative. Everything's relative in values level 4, in 6, which drives the 4 crazy. Everything has to do with love and light, consciousness, human relationships, community, compassion. It's a very humanistic values level. It's the opposite of values level 5. It's the opposite of the coldness and rationality of 5. But can you see how both are necessary in different contexts? If people will do business according to how they feel in the moment and how much they love a person, oh, and I have, by the way, and it always turned out wrong. Because business requires numbers, figures, percentages. It requires a profit and loss. It requires a cool-headed analysis, which has nothing to do with emotions. So they are all useful. And as we progress through values levels from one to another to another to another in terms of complexity, we integrate everything that we have gone through, and so that's how we progress, by integrating, mastering first of all a values level, which means we do it, And then that values level becomes non-important, a new one arises. And so we integrate everything from the previous values levels. But six is concerned with meaningful group relationships. Very important words, meaningful, not all relationships, but meaningful group related relationships. The values level six thinker is the inner being, the who you truly are inside you. That's what they would say to you, for the self and for the others. Yeah. So six becomes a very good caring and compassionate coach, a very good caring and compassionate trainer. The trainings will be without any schedule and order, by the way, because we all sit here and feel good, and we finish at midnight every night because there is no schedule, there is no time. We just feel good and share in together's feelings. I couldn't. I had to say it. Yeah. So they are very gender non-specific. There is a lot of acceptance in values level six. What you see, the movements that you see in both coasts of the United States, in Australia, I've been in Sydney, where is very tolerant to all sorts of gender preferences. That becomes from values level six, non-critical, accepting. Yeah, it's fine, whatever, man, who cares, right? And indeed, they don't, which values level four cannot get their heads around. How is it possible that this person doesn't, I mean, it should be this way or that way, right? And six go, no. It could be that way and the other way and the other way and the other way, whatever they want. Who cares? And they cannot get their heads around. And it's just a matter of how people think, not what they think. They are arguing about what they think, and it's not even about that, yeah? But a lot of concern about spirituality, about consciousness, about the search for enlightenment, as I said, about the meaningful relationships are in values level six. But don't be fooled. Most of the new age groups are not real values level six, they're 4-6, because they denote a lot of values level four thinking. Now, the problem with six is that's the most righteous, no, sorry, it's the most judgmental, scratch righteous, righteous is four. It's the most judgmental of all values levels. Because six says like this, we shouldn't be judgmental. We shouldn't judge anybody. We should be the most tolerant and the most accepting. But you don't get to not do that because we'll judge you if you dare to be different. So, in other words, six judges judgmentalism most judgmentally. That's a mouthful. But I say it good. I can say it twice. Six judges. Nope, I can't. Six judges judge. See when I show off what happens? Six judges judgmentalism most judgmentally. Now I said it. You don't get another one. Oh boy. So in 5 we had cold rational decision making. In 6, again, the locus of decisions in the group, not in the individual. Yeah. And now we have sensitivity. Now we have softness. Now we have respect. Now we have deep personal relationships. We have committees. We have long together, coming together meetings, the rule of the majority. We're subjective here, not objective. We are relaxed. We are informal. We don't want to classify anything anywhere. Now, here is the problem. Because of that, as a result of that, 6 has a problem with commitment. They cannot commit themselves to anybody else outside of their personal group. And they are unwilling to change things. And that can create, as you can imagine, a serious problem. A big problem, in fact. Good. That would be a very brief overview of 6. Again, understand that this is just a very, very brief overview. Oh, six likes to experiment with mind expanding drugs, and in many instances they abuse drugs, they abuse hallucinogens, um, and as four in a way, but different from four, again, it loops inside the box where they move from one mystical awakening to another, from one guru to another, from one secret course to another course to another course, forever, but never integrating or doing anything with what they learned because they are not into taking action. Yeah, they're not into doing. If you want to call it, values level 6 is very much into being. Yeah, good. So an evolution past this level, or evolution in general of a human being, is possible only in as much as all the conditions and all the values levels are are walked, as in walk the walk, not only talk the talk. No, you cannot avoid one. So let's say that somebody is exiting values level 4. The normal progression would be values level 5, right? But 5 is so different, 180 degrees opposed from 4, that it's not possible, it's absolutely not possible for that person to easily move into 5. What they'll try to short circuit the whole process, and because it's easy, they will adopt values level 6 words and values, but the container, so they'll put another coffee here. The coffee will be the words of values level 6, but the container is still 4, exiting 4, who hasn't done 5. I'm giving 4, 6 as an example, but the same thing can happen with 3, 5, with 5, 7, with 2, 4, you name it. The problem is that the person becomes stuck. There is an impossibility to progress until the person's really willing to go back, and as in our example with 4, 6, go back to do 5. So proceed to the entry stages in 5. If environment, so provided environment is supportive. If environment's not supportive, then good. Values level 7 now is expressive. Here is a thing, and just one single graduate of ours has ever reached this conclusion on his own. Now, I'm not saying that others haven't, but nobody ever asked me but one person. Is it evolution possible beyond values level 6 without some form of, air quotes, enhancement to the human body? I know I never mentioned this. This is one of the things that I mentioned today and I never mentioned in the trainings. And only one single person has ever asked me this question. Is evolution beyond values level 7, I mean natural evolution, possible without some sort of a body enhancement? As in what? Robotics, nanotechnology, AI, and so on and so forth. Good question. I'm not going to give you the answer. You think it through. You're all intelligent people. Good. Values level 7 is expressive again. Paradoxical thinking. Here, there is no more this or that. It's paradoxical thinking abound. And the person can hold both ends of the dichotomy in mind without cognitive strain, operating on a continuum from one side to the other, according to the environment, and the function. What's most functional? What's most functional thing? Good. It's 7 is an open system. I said 6 is a closed system. 7 is an open system. Is a system, a systemic existential, by the way, but the word system here is understood to be different from the system of values level 4. It's filled with self-worth. Here, you won't find individuals suffering of lack of self-confidence or self-worth. Accepting of all, because he went through 6 already, yeah? Accepting of all races, genders, colors, ages, sexual preferences, you name it. It's all acceptance, all. And the nature of existence is based on information. In values level 7, the nature of existence is based on information. And out of values level 7 thinking, we have the new types of technologies, which are absolutely phenomenal. The problem we're having with that is that they are bought immediately by other values level thinking people or organizations or governments or militaries and utilized for different purposes. That's the problem, not the technology itself. So, how many people you know that in your daily conversations talk about the colonization of space? I wrote about that in the Values book. It's one of the things that's happening, folks. While everybody's screaming out and loud about the coronavirus and about the latest Netflix frequencies and so on and so forth, just last week, and this is, by the way, a thing that appears in between countries, the Russian president, Putin, said that he was seriously concerned about NATO's attempts to militarize outer space. Now, when you say this to most people, you'll have the following reaction. Oh, Putin's full of, you know what, because he's, our arch enemy. Or, who cares? Another type of response, yeah? But you are talking here about an official statement about NATO forces, which have to do with space developments, which have to do with a lot of money and technology, which have to do with also Japan, because they want to develop a space force, European, what's his name? What is he called? The international. I draw a blank right now. The European NASA, as it were, but I don't know what the name is right now. Anyway, if you just pay attention of what's going on, satellites, are in space. Oh my God, so many satellites are in space. What are we going to do? Well, maybe we should stop thinking only on the planet. Maybe we should start thinking off the planet for a change. Just saying. Just saying, right? Now, are satellites good or bad? Well, it depends. But if you are having a values level 5 mentality, and you get the technology developed in values level 7 and you put it up there in space, you have to think risk management, don't you? And then you have to think what? Weaponization of space. Because you have to defend your satellites against what? It could be jammed, hacked, weaponized. Of course. And then all of a sudden Putin's remark doesn't seem so strange anymore. And then what does it mean? Listen to the statement: attempts to expropriate outer space and aggressive plans to de facto seize of the territories of other planets will hardly encourage other nations to participate in fruitful cooperation. What did he just say, folks? Did you just hear the words? To de facto seize the territories of other planets. Now, this is not science fiction. You go, oh, that is just talking. I heard this talk or whatever. However, in a bipartisan bid, the U.S. Senate unanimously last week passed the Space Act, No, no, Space Act was in 2015. I'm going to tell you immediately what they passed recently. But the Space Act was passed in 2015, which grants the U.S. corporations and citizens the right to legally claim non-living natural resources mined on asteroids or other planets. Do you understand that you don't put a law into place unless you intend to do it? And most people are so caught on living on the planet, in other words, their concerns are of less complex thinking, they cannot even observe this. Now, is it good, is it bad? No, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying it is. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. In 2019, I think we had the National Defense Authorization Act, which was signed by President Trump to usher in the Space Force, which is the sixth branch of the military. Yeah. This is the last branch since 1947 when the Air Force was established. Now, why do we need the Space Force? What are we doing with that? What's that for? But and at the time, the media was making fun of Trump. Ha, 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 Trump's crazy, and so on and so forth. But then you look and the Chinese have successfully landed the probe on the dark side of the moon. The Japanese talk about beaming energy from space. Yeah. India has launched 23 satellites in a week, or some 23 or 26, or some ridiculous amount. This denotes what? Unbelievable technology and a different type of thinking. The functionality, again, I'm saying this word, the functionality of all these satellites, of all these bills and laws passed, they have a purpose. They are the most functional thing to achieve a goal, functional being a keyword in values level 7. Yeah. So they all are for a certain purpose. But many of the institutions and the people in charge are not at that level of thinking. And then we're facing the circus that we see every day, all day long on TV. You know, the bread and circus. So then you start talking about, you know, a serious discussion about PhDs at reputable universities like the Oxford University. For instance, what was his name? Degaris, I think. He wrote a book, The Artifact Wars. His name is Hugo Degaris. Yeah, Hugo Degaris, where he talks about, you know, these are seriously intelligent people with a very complex type of thinking. They think, are we going to end up in an artifact war where we're going to have the people that are not enhanced, we're going to have the cyborgs, and we're going to have the artifacts, which are people that will be enhanced to fight the cyborgs. And if you talk to somebody about these issues, whose concerns are what am I going to put on the table to feed my kids tonight, they're not going to care about this, folks. Because their environment and type of thinking, because of the environment, is forced in a certain values level. Is that person less intelligent? No. Is that person less capable of understanding what's going on in space? No. Do they care? No. And that's the difference. Yeah. But I want to point out to you that lots are happening which lead actually humanity beyond values level 7 into values level 8, which is concerned with the new tribe this time including all human beings on the planet. Who are we as human beings, as humans, as Terrans of the creatures of this planet, yeah? Who are we in a greater scheme of things? Who are we in the galaxy? Come on, let's stop it. It's simply absurd to presuppose that we are the only form of life in this galaxy. I don't even want to go down that path. That denotes a certain type of thinking. And when, you know, I'm confronted with this, I just shut my mouth. I don't have to. But my absolute belief is that there are other species in this galaxy, and you know, But what's our role? What's our territory? Is our territory just this planet? Or can we claim the solar system? And if we claim the solar system, do we have the technology to enforce it? Do we have the technology to establish colonization of other planets? And what's the purpose for that? And then you have to think of I think it's the scientist is Kardashev, right? I think it's Kardashev, or am I confused right now? I might be confused. Which, it has the three stages of civilization are directly related to the energy they consume. Stage one, civilization consumes all the energy produced by a planet. Stage two, civilization utilizes all the energy produced by the closest star, which would be our sun. And then the stage three, civilization utilizes all the energy produced in a galaxy. Now, where do you think we are if we stay stuck on renewables, what we call renewables? We're stage zero civilization, obviously. Although we're moving with big leaps forward, I don't want to go down that path, but it's my belief that we have also achieved in certain areas stage one civilization. And we will see a massive change in the way we produce and utilize energy. In fact, through the usage on the internet, through the usage of cryptocurrencies, where you are using more energy, much more energy than before. So the usage of the energy increase on the planet is just going to go up. Therefore, we need to find science and different type of thinking, because that's what I'm leading to. Everything's connected to the complexity of thinking. Different type of thinking that will lead us into a completely different civilization. Good. Just that much I have time to put in values level 7. We are already long, so I have to wrap up immediately. Good. So it's an interesting quote that Graves himself said when he was asked by a student if there is going to be a potential for a conflict. And this was in 1979 when he answered. And he said, we're already having a tremendous conflict. Not that we are going to have. We just haven't had it in as rough a form as it could possibly be. It's a great, great bomb we're living on. I don't know that it will, but it can. There is no guarantee in further existence. Values level 7 is the next level, but we have no guarantee we'll get there as a society. Because there is the bridge between getting and giving, taking and contributing, destroying and constructing. It's the bridge between deficiency or deficit motivation and growth and abundance motivation. It's the bridge between similarity to animals and dissimilarity to animals. At every values level, humans feel they have arrived, but arrived have they not, because the human neurology is open, yeah? Nor will arrival ever come to be. All the forms of existence from 1 to 6 have required from the human being less than he had to give, his cognitiveness. He has not arrived because all previous forms of existence, all previous value system restricted his most typical human characteristics, his cognition. But now, after he has solved his first 6 basic existential problems, the cognitive realms opens wide and enable the leading edge man to capture a glimpse of the future models of life and values for mankind. Now, this is quite an amazing quotation from Graves, as you think of it, because what's required from values level 7, it's something completely different that we have never experienced before and that we never had in our environment before. And that's the thing. And there is more to talk about values level 8 and 9, but it's beyond the purpose and scope of our talk today. But I want to answer the question that I've been asked in terms of what to do not to revert. Let me see, what is it in my notes? Because I made some bullet point notes here. Oh, first of all, please, if you want for yourself, whether you are trained in values or not, what you can do for yourself with this is in your own time, take a piece of paper and write down what's important to me in my life. What's important to me in my life. And then jot down as quickly as you can what words come to mind. Please do not write it down as you want it to be, as you should be, as it would be an ideal life. None of that. No, 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 no. Take it down, take down the words as they come to you very quickly and write it down. And you're going to find out that some words will come to mind, and then it's kind of like you're going to draw a blank. Then ask yourself again, and what else is important to me in my life? And then a few more words will come. And then you're going to draw a second blank. And then ask yourself again, and what else is important to me in my life? And draw another blank. Write some more words until you draw another blank. So do this at least twice when your buffer empties out. Yeah? And then, as quickly as you can, trusting your unconscious mind, remember values are mostly unconscious. They're filters that operate unconsciously. Put them in order. What's the most important? What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? The key here is to do it fast, because if you do it slowly, then it's too much conscious mind's interference, because you would like one to be there, but not, maybe it's better this way. No, 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 none of that. And after you've done that, just have a look at your values and ask yourself, these values here that I just put down that are important to me in my life, are they in alignment with my goals right now or not? Good question. And that's what's going to give you a lot of answers about your inner incongruencies or congruencies, about when you experience inner conflicts or not. And if you are able to take action, or taking action or doing something toward the achievement of your goals in the moment, or the resolution of the problems that you encounter right now in your life. That's a very good exercise. I know it's, for those of you who've been trained in values, of course, it's not the whole thing, but I didn't talk about everything. So this is very sufficient to give you like a mirror, and you'll be surprised what you'll come up with. And if you really look carefully at those words, it will also give you a massive explanation of why things are the way they are for you right now in your life. Yeah. And you're going to notice if you run into values conflicts with other people as well. And why are you in conflict with other people? That's very good. So now quickly, how to not revert to the values levels under stress, and then we're going to say goodbye. Then we're done. And imagine me, I'll have to re-record all this again. Can't believe what happened. This is embarrassing, the video. At least you could hear me. At least you could hear me. Anyway, so under stress, we said that the theory says that under stress, people revert to the last values level completed. That doesn't mean they revert one values level. It can be more than one. They revert to the last values level fully completed. Now, why some people push forward and some people revert backwards? First of all, because the last values completed is part of the neurology. It's already part of the cup. It's there. The values level that the person's operating, trying now to do the doing of completion is, Anna, I'll see you next time. Thank you for being here. Is not complete. So the neurology is not formed yet. The neurology is getting formed by taking action. Herein lies the answer. The neurology of the next values level is being formed by the doing by the taking action. Now, there might be a skill that's missing, and people need to learn some things. There might be strategies that are not there. Yeah, that's also possible. People may need to learn new skills or change strategies. It has to have, a person has to also have a powerful drive, a desire to move forward, a desire to change. They have to be free of secondary gain. Now, it depends if they are open, arrested, or closed to change. Do they want to change? Do they ever want to change? Do they want to, are they easy to accept change? Or it's very hard for them? Are they even willing to try? Right? So all of that. It's the understanding, and language has to change. Each values level has a different understanding of the meaning of the words. A completely different understanding of the meaning of the words. 5 is known to redefine everything. In 5, no term that used to mean something in 4 means the same thing anymore. So think of it, language has to be redefined. The willingness to learn new terms, which in turn will make a change in the neurology, which in turn will make a change in the areas of the brain that are active. All of that's part of it. And then imagine, it's not hard. It's not hard. If you understand meta model, or if you understand the complex equivalent, actually, it's very simple, even for those of you who are not trained. All you have to do is, what do you mean by that? What do you mean when you say blah? What do you mean by that? But most people don't care to ask, and they prefer to mind read. And then that leads to misunderstandings, and that leads to virtual hallucinations, where we're mind reading and creating an image of the world, our model of the world, which has nothing to do with the reality of facts outside. Yeah? So all of that's part of it. But I think you have to start with the fact that two important things. First of all, where is the person? Is the person entering the new values level? Is the person full on or exiting? And secondly, is the taking action? Is the person willing to take action? Because the progress is possible and moving forward is possible if the person is persistent and insistent in taking action and not falling back into the comfortable, oh, I'm still here and the stimulus will help me and I don't have to do anything. Because that's simply being lazy. Sorry, I don't mean to be offensive, but it's simply being lazy. I don't have to worry because I'll get the stimulus. So, just a few concluding thoughts, folks. And that will be really just a few, 2 minutes, and then we're done. The evolution of the human being, and I wrote this down because I think it's important. The evolution of the human being is the evolution of their consciousness, and consciousness equals awareness. And the mind is the tool. I said this so many times, and I keep saying it. This is kind of my mantra in the training. The mind is the tool by which consciousness creates. Yeah. So consciousness cannot evolve unconsciously. Sorry to point this out to you. I know it's deep. But it is in a way as you think of it. Because if you want to progress through the values levels, your consciousness changes too. Because the complexity of thinking changes too. So consciousness is connected to awareness, it's connected to mind, it's connected to knowledge and understanding, which results in will. But will cannot evolve involuntarily. So it has to be a desire, it has to be a push, it has to be a I want this, a passion behind something. Not only a very simple, auditory, digital, rational, logical thing. It has to be all of that together to provide the push, the will necessary for a person to never stop, never give up, keep going, you know. So, but doing itself cannot evolve or even start by things happening to you or things happening by chance. Things must be started from within by the desire to overcome the stage you are at. And all of that, my friends, is part of the progress and why some people push forward and some people don't. So to develop consciousness, you are required to use conscious effort. I'm going to say this again. To develop consciousness, you are required to use conscious effort. To grow through various levels, you need a more and more complex consciousness. And I'm sorry to say, for those of you who are into group consciousness, consciousness is individual, is not group-based. Because self-consciousness cannot arise in a collective manner. To work consciously for the benefit of all humanity and choose to be in a group and work in a group, one needs first to grow through all the stages alone as an individual consciousness. Otherwise, this individual's consciousness stops being individual and gets lost in the group. And so I'll finish with my favorite Carl Jung quotation that comes from an itty bitty book he wrote in 1957 called The Undiscovered Self. And it's a paraphrase, of course. It has given me days and days of contemplation, and I think it will still do so in the future. And the question is, what stops you as an individual from dissolving into the crowd? As the consciousness progressing through more complex forms of thinking, doing, being, and creating. Because all of that connects. All of that connects. And all of that's necessary. Anyway, it's been wonderful to see you all here. Again, I'm embarrassed and I apologize. I don't know if it was my fault for what happened online. I will redo this with a clear video and I will post it for you guys. At least you had the sound, which was good. I hope to see you again next time. Thank you, Rhonda. Good to reconnect. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I do a shout out to all of you, my friends, who are here. And thank you for all the thumbs up. And if you found this useful and the previous videos useful, please like and share. It really helps me very much on Facebook. Like, share, and subscribe. That will be a nice gift if you appreciate what I do here. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. I wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. And we will see you in a while, I guess. I don't know when. I will do the next one when I'm told to do it. Love to all. Bye now. Be well.